Is the sound okay for the stream, guys? On my side, it didn't get worse. It's fine. Cool. Yeah, I think the mic is pretty cool, but I mean, I'm never really quite sure about it. Now I hear myself. Yes. Yeah, sure.
I also have to
Yes.
go whore it round everywhere. Because that's the kind of guy I am.
Yes. Yes, that's pretty cool. I think that must have happened because plenty of images were still maybe in approval. So I don't know why it took so long, but it's nice to see them, and it's a nice little push for the game after launch. Launch, but launch as well, you know, for the xenomorphs and everything.
I hate this bit.
The waiting.
Yeah. Me having to come up with something to say while I share it around. You can go there.
And they hear us right now, or not yet? Not quite yet. Yeah, I got that. Come on, chat. Questions. Hi. I can say hi. Oh, wow. Hello, Chevy. Nice to meet you.
He was just messaging me actually about about Dog's Ascent.
Yes, I am everywhere. I have a synth just typing for me. That would be nice actually to work faster and probably better. The behind the scenes. Evening, everybody.
Welcome, Caleb. Welcome, Sarah. Some of our other regular viewers
The
on the channel.
Marines. The Marines of AVP Galaxy.
Alright.
Thank you so much. Yes, that's nice. Thank you so much. That's good to hear. But if you have questions or any other comments, I'll take them anyway. Where are we? Mission 6, right? Oh, that's the second mission. That's Dead Hills, right? Yeah, sorry. I mean, and you're talking without, I mean, and playing, so that's quite the accomplishment. Mm-hmm.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
Last support required.
Adam, apparently you're silent on the stream. Did you mute your mic?
He's trying to stay sneaky.
That's one way to do it. Chevy also says, thanks for your part in Dark Descent, Thibaut. Really
Thank you,
enjoyed the
Chevy.
game
How
and the
about
story.
now? Can you all hear me now?
Can people hear him now?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Look at the stress, they say. He's getting stressful as well.
He's only just cleared
Yes.
that down as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Wow. Nobody heard anything of what I said.
We're
Okay.
set.
Very
Yeah.
professional of you, Adam. Very
Thanks.
professional.
Off to a great start. Okay. Survivors extracted. Yeah, let's just extract our squad.
I thought you were going to start on mission 2. 3, technically.
Well, I will, but before I do this boss fight of the Crusher, I should probably let my Marines rest a little bit.
Jelly Sheep says, can we ask questions at any time? Yes, of course you can, Jelly. By all means. And it's Adam playing today. He's continuing.
Yeah. Because I can only play in story mode anyway. That's very narrative of me, I know.
To be fair, sometimes it needs to be done. I had to do it with Jedi, and I still didn't get very far in it.
Really? I
That's
didn't
fun.
check the second one for now. I need to because I'm a huge fan. But yeah, I imagine.
All right, you guys deserve promotions.
Yes, let's promote everybody.
Caleb says, good job with the game. The story was really good. Some cool twists and turns and tie-ins to the EU lore.
Yeah, that was the intention. I think Romain, our game director, would be pleased to hear that. He battled his solid 10 years to 15 years to give life to his vision about, putting all that EU lore into a proper Marines game.
Yeah, no, we really love this game. Aaron, our review podcast still isn't out
No, it's-
yet? Okay.
It should be up next week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so then you'll hear us dig deep into it a little bit, but I think
That's nice. You actually took the time to make a proper review, didn't you?
we're a bit late to the party with that, but
I mean, it's always nice to see them, after a while, because there's so many things these days, including video game reviews. They are a bit like, rushed in, So
Yeah,
I think that would be nice.
I've even noticed some like big review sites like IGN and GameSpot will be like, in our time with the game, like insinuating they didn't finish it. I'm like, you guys are reviewing the game. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Nothing pisses me off more than outlets or fan podcasts or stuff like that will do an episode or a review of something that the people doing it haven't finished the fucking product that they're talking about. It's like, why even bother?
Yeah, that's a shame. Especially you guys, fans, you're in for, I think, the deep dive, so it's always good to take the time to dive.
Oh yeah, that's half the fun, is the dissecting it after the fact.
Exactly.
Jelly Sheep says, most of my questions are probably going to be about the awesome Hunslet, to be fair. I'm sure Thibaut won't mind if they're about Hunslet, so...
Yeah. Is Jelly Sheep responsible for that Twitter account shipping Hunslet and... oh gosh, I don't remember the name of the pilot in Aliens, like the original, but...
Pyro.
Yeah. But it's funny. I get a lot of questions and comments about her.
They are as well.
The pilots always have a good attitude. AVP2 as well. And then, Fireteam Elite and then this game. All the pilots had really fun personalities and snippy attitudes.
Do you still remember the one of the first quotes from Johnson in AVP2? Where'd you learn to fly?
Flight school. Same
Flight
place they
school.
taught me not to fly in hurricane winds. I was at Salt Lake FanX the other day, and I didn't know Jen Taylor was going to be there. I would have brought my copy of AVP2 for her to sign, and she'd be like, finally, not a Halo-related thing.
That's
You
nice.
wouldn't have taken both?
I guess I would have, but I don't know. That might have been expensive.
White Abaddon's also joined us, and Paul X says, amazing game. I love how it borrows elements from the RPG. Definitely a game made by people who know the lore well. Mitch says the game deserves a book for all the incredible concept art and renders. Damn right, Mitch. Completely agree with you there.
Yes, where
That would be nice.
where be the art books at? Like, we haven't had one of those for a while. I think
Yeah.
the last game that got one was Isolation.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah. I mean, in the meantime, you can always go to ArtStation because I think Sergey, our art director, he did like a, little article
That's
putting
right.
together everything everybody did. I mean, some of the stuff is, I guess, somewhere on a hard drive at Tindalos, but most of the cool stuff is available online for free. So that's always something. But it's always so good to have it on paper and.
But then again, the thing I found with the art books, like the film ones as well as like the Isolation ones, is it doesn't, and this pees me off as well, it doesn't credit the artists. You don't have little captions crediting the actual artists of those particular pieces, or always the best context. So
Mhm.
I've always found those to be a bit of a double-edged
Yeah, true.
sword.
I mean, sometimes you do, but yeah, often. If you're lucky if they're just all on the back of the book, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Wesker says, hello there, you nailed the atmosphere with this game. I love that it's an RTS, nice to change up other than an FPS. I mean, is it... completely agree with the sentiment there, Dave. It's not technically an RTS, though, is it? I mean...
It's always hard to define. I think some of people at the studio were describing it as an RTS, other a tactical, other like it would be a tactical with RPG elements or real-time tactical. So I think I mean, it's always, I mean, it's a, like you said, it's a double-edged sword for that matter as well, because it usually indicates that either your game isn't properly fully fledged, it's hard to describe, but also it could mean that you're onto something new. So I don't know. Apparently, if I'm remembering stuff from the different reviews, that people thought that it was a nice iteration on the tactical, and RTS genres. So I don't know, let's describe it as a mix of both, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things the game does really well is it's a mix of different like gameplay genres. Like a lot of people have compared it to XCOM, right? Like a real-time tactics game, but it actually has a lot of survival horror elements, I feel, having
True
played
as
a lot of
well.
survival horror games, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that I mean, if we had more times, we would probably have make more RPG elements or that sort of stuff. But like moral choices, that sort of stuff, I was really interested to try out in this game. So maybe for a sequel or something, or a DLC. But that sort of stuff is always interesting. Mix the different codes of and archetypes of different genres. And my younger brother just today described the Otego and the hub of the game, as I mean, reminiscent of StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty. So everybody sees what they want to see, I guess. But it's always fun to be compared to different type of game. It means like we can attract a lot of different players.
This has been an interesting mechanic here where you have to make the choice of like, do I get the resources or do I lose deployment? I don't think
Those were quite fun to write as well, because Roma had written every effect, but the little text you have on the left was me trying to give a bit of context about that. And when I was reading the effects, some of those missions, they are two negatives outcomes, and you have to pick, I mean, probably the one you can handle the best. And I was like, man, you're so mean to our future players. They will rage when they see that. But yeah, I like those missions, and some of them, I don't know, like you have the bar fights and that sort of stuff. So some of them were quite fun to write.
Wesker says, good point. It's just nice to have a completely different game than an FPS. Yeah, completely agree there. It's very much a breath of fresh air. And I think that's something I've enjoyed about some of the more recent Alien games as well. You know, Blackout was a completely different type of genre for an Alien game that worked really well. And Dark Descent was completely unique for the Alien franchise, and again, works incredibly well for it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think for franchise games in general, I mean, we had a lot of those in like the 90s and early 2000s, and now we see more of them, and mostly usually bigger games or genres that have proven that they were quite influential or successful. But now that we are entering a new age of franchise video games, I think it's always nice to balance the number of those games by the different genres. And I think Aliens, for starters, but probably a lot of different IPs, they have like possibilities that are potentially endless if publishers and studios are willing to try new stuff. I remember like a narrative designer on Twitter when I don't know if you are into the Marvel series and movies, guys, but they were saying that we could make a killer game with that thing Loki has in his series, like the little watch that monitors the different multiverse sort of stuff. You could make a nice little mobile game where you handle the different variants of whatever character. So there is always like some room to find new genres to apply to whatever franchise, and I think it has a cool effect. Like as an Alien fan, I was excited to work on this project, knowing that it wasn't an FPS, specifically because I thought, oh, because of the god eye view and the different perspective and the scale of the game, we will be able to explore new things and also see the universe from another point of view, if that makes sense.
But it feels so thematically relevant as well, because at the end
Yes.
of the day, it's putting you in Gorman's shoes.
Yeah.
You are getting an opportunity to be more competent than Gorman is.
Yes.
And we'll have to see if Adam's a Gorman or not.
Yeah. We're watching you, Aaron. But you could imagine a very hardcore version of the game where you only see the environment through the cameras the Marines are carrying. That would be because to be fair with Gorman, he had to do that. Like we have a better view than he had.
That's true. I would still love a found footage Alien film or Alien film.
That would be nice.
Mitch says Mako is such a unique female lead without being a retread of any previous characters. That in itself seems hard to pull off.
It was hard, yes. I think I need to thank you guys for the first talk that we had, because we actually did talk about Mako quite a lot, and also I was chatting with Juliana, the voice-over artist on for the character during the summer, and I think that the talk actually made a lot of people realize that we had like a great character, and it's so good to hear after battling for months trying to make her interesting and relevant when everybody was kind of saying that she was unlikable or her motivations were pretty hard to understand. I mean, to an extent they are, because she does some pretty dark stuff, but yeah, it's just so good to hear that you guys enjoy what we did with her, because that was probably the biggest challenge that I had working on this project.
Yeah, I thought she was just a great and interesting character, but go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to say she was on Perfect Organism a couple of weeks ago, and
yes. She was nice. Go listen to that.
Well, one of the cinemas she talked about seeing Alien in actually is one I've been to quite a few times for random showings that they do down there. But no, she was talking about like collaborating with you during like the recordings and stuff like that, which was interesting to hear.
Yeah, we were always trying to provide her with a bit of a context and also feedback on on what she was doing because as she mentioned and as some of you probably know that usually like the voice actors they don't have the whole story beforehand, so they kind of discover it as you players do. So it's quite it's an interesting, I think, exercise for them. We were talking about that with Juliana a few days ago about what she would prefer, maybe having everything. um I mean, sometimes I try to do voices on other project. I try to do voices and it's super hard, but it's always nice to have like the context and everything in my mind. So I don't know how she does it because I was like, it must be like discovering your favorite series, like in the booth, like really in Mako's shoes. So she must have been like a very, I don't know, like attentive to everything that she had to remember, like the details, and because that plot gets quite complex. So yeah, but it's funny that people ended up loving her as much as they do because I really wasn't sure that they would.
I really enjoyed Mako. Yeah, I really enjoyed her arc, and Juliana was lovely. Although I was surprised by the very British accent given.
That's crazy, right? The difference
Yeah.
was insane in the booth. Like you cannot imagine, guys, because she has a very like like quite a posh accent, if I can say so like that. But I mean, she was always super nice, and we were talking before we start rolling with the lines and everything, and suddenly she was like from one word to the other, a completely different person. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, sorry, but that was crazy to hear.
I think Jelly Sheep on our chat has a question. Kind of going back to the dropship pilots, what inspired Thibaut to create a pilot so far removed from the professionalism of Pharaoh? Is Hunslet a homage to Kara Thrace, Starbuck from reimagined Battlestar Galactica with some Hudson thrown in? So any inspirations for our dropship pilot in this game?
I would have to ask that to Matthew Ward, who was the first writer and narrative designer working on Hunslet, because I think he created it. I didn't create the character.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think that's one of the characters that I probably didn't write or change the line of because she was too goddamn funny, man. So she was a nice. I mean, a breath of fresh air. Like to have her, cracking jokes and saying stuff during the missions. It was very much needed sometimes to break the tension and like relieve a bit of pressure out of the shoulders of the players. But yeah, I think the original intent was actually to have like cocky pilot like you have in action movies of that time. But yeah, I guess to an extent she's like she's not as professional, but I don't know. I would have to ask him, or maybe Romain really wanted to have like a more of a comedic character. But also I know that Matthew is a big fan of other sci-fi franchises. Sorry, so maybe Battlestar Galactica is one of his references. I'll have to DM him about that.
I mean,
sorry, I cannot be of any help on that topic.
That's always something I found was unique, particularly about Alien Universe, Colonial Marines. I mean, going back from that second film, Aliens, is the Marines were very casual and relaxed when they could be, sometimes pushing their luck, but like when it hit the fan, they were professional. Well, I mean, mostly, unless it was a situation that was, completely foobar. And this game kind of incorporates that too. Like when they get stressed out, they will be less prone to take orders.
Definitely. I think I had read somewhere that Cameron had to apologize or did apologize because of the representation of the Marines, and like the real like US Marine Corps said that, I mean, no Marine will behave like they behave in the movie.
I think the military should have recognized, like, guys, this is more than 100 years in the future. Come on.
Yes,
Like,
exactly that.
come on.
And also that we know in the lore that the Marines they are more like glorified PMCs, or I don't know. I mean, sometimes they don't have like the proper, soldier mentality, I would say. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that we managed to capture the essence of the movie, of them, being super chill and relaxed. It's another bug hunt, whatever. And then, pretty much even a bad day can get worse, and that was the intent. And if you actually take a good listen to the bark lines, the voice line that the Marines says when they reach another level of stress, I think we ended up using the lines from the movie for the final step only. I mean, at least that was my intent. So when you hear like the lines from the movie, like from Hudson and whatever, and we didn't want to have like a like a nostalgia trip, and saying the line just out of pure nostalgia, but we thought it would be interesting to use them as the final warning of the Marine getting stressed out, and send a message to the player like, oh, watch out, it's just like the movie, so it's gonna end bad, and just like here.
I probably should have set up the turrets before this
You
cutscene.
should have set up the turret.
Now
Sorry,
I might be completely screwed. Let's see if I can pull this off here.
Maybe it's not too late.
So, I need to take notes here. So, one of the things I wanted to mention there as well is in terms of like the Marines' behavior. They were inspired by a different time of soldier, of military,
Oh man.
Involuntary, I suppose, military. So I don't think they.
Well, we got the
realised
crusher.
perhaps that it wasn't supposed to be a representation of.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, that was why. There's one of those anecdotes that I found out when I started working on a game, and I really wanted to, do a deep dive on everything that I might have missed in the past.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I was like, that's pretty weird. It's a pretty weird thing to ask Cameron about, like, are you guys not super realistic, and they don't behave like real Marines? So it's like, yeah, they're fighting, aliens in space, but whatever. Yeah, I don't think it was supposed to be like, disrespectful or something. I think,
Oh no. Especially like some of the backstory from the characters where they were serving so they didn't have to be in prison and stuff like that.
yeah.
So it carries the involuntary vibe in that regards.
Yeah.
Caleb says, Adam, you're playing it on game journalism difficulty.
I'm playing it on hard. What are you talking about?
That's
Okay, so I gotta go this way.
Here's a question for you, Thibaut.
yeah. Let's go.
So one of the guys in the chat, Lobo Films, was talking about a little bit of inconsistency between Dark Descent and the other modern Aliens game, Fireteam Elite. So
Yeah.
he was wondering, is there any dialogue between the creatives of different projects like Marvel Comics or the games or the shows and the films? Did you have much collaboration with any of those other guys while you were working on this?
Myself, I didn't have collaboration with these guys. I mean, that would have been awesome, and I think the more collaboration, probably the better for the quality of those games and shows and movies and whatever. What exists, and I had to experience myself, was that you have a few people responsible at 20th Century Studios for everything Alien. And so we could ask questions, we could suggest stuff, and basically they were answering depending on what everybody had done or will do, So that sort of stuff I cannot for obvious reason, go into details, but I can do like a hypothetical example would be like, oh, I want to introduce this planet, and it would look like this. Oh, you cannot do that because someone did something that is quite reminiscent of the same idea in whatever show or game that will come up. So it's mostly they're not guiding you, if that makes sense, but they're mostly saying they won't create a collaboration, but they will try to avoid repetition and inconsistencies to the best of their knowledge, because some of the stuff is also sometimes, I mean, we're all human at the end of the day, and there are some, you know, lore or plot points that might be inconsistent just because they didn't really check it with their full attention, or, you know, mistake happened basically. So, but it kind of goes back to the conversation we had in our previous show where we were mentioning, you know, relationship with the canon, and does everything we hear would probably have to be, sorry, does it have to be, you know, the truth, or maybe it was kind of interpreted or misinterpreted. Sorry for the bad pronunciation, but yeah, that sort of stuff is always, I think, a bit sad, to be honest. I feel you. But I always think about it as well as maybe it's possibility, you know, that there is a room for improvisation and to create something interesting. That what, for instance, that was what we were trying to do with using the Montero name or that sort of stuff. So it's not just like a regular, you know, homage or Easter egg, but maybe we're trying to build something that feels real, because reality, I mean, that's another that's another conversation altogether. But I like to think that reality is not, you know, just it doesn't work like canon for an IP. It has a lot of inconsistencies, and that's what makes our existence, our life, quite interesting and surprising at times.
Yeah, I mean the RPG, they kind of made a point of like what was it, Aaron, the barroom canon?
Barroom canon. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's what
so
you were referring to there.
Yeah, I love that.
so I think some companies, I mean, I don't know, maybe Star Wars, they can go a little overboard in terms of like making sure everything fits perfectly, and then it just kind of stifles creative exploration a bit, I guess. I mean, the Alien
Yeah.
universe, especially in its earlier days in the expanded universe with the comics, they tried a bunch of like wacky out there stuff.
Yes.
And some of those were really interesting, and I like that this game feels like a different interpretation than Fireteam Elite. Like, I love Fireteam Elite, right? It's a bit more in the future than this game is, and it feels like the technology is a bit more removed from the original Aliens, whereas your game feels very much closer to the original Aliens, both
Yeah.
in terms of that presentation, but also gameplay. You know, there's more of a horror focus rather than the horde shooter focus we got with Fireteam Elite. So
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely
I
think
think-
there's room for multiple interpretations of the same thing.
Yeah, that would. It's not very 2023 regarding you know, IP. Like nowadays, we live in a, you know, that sort of multiverse type of everything has to be consistent. Although you can have different iteration of the same thing, but it's supposed to be consistent. It's supposed to be like from live action to animation. I think James Gunn is like rebooting DC, saying like the actors that will portray the different characters, they would be the same throughout every media. And I think that's damn right impossible. But and also it will probably cut a lot of creativity from the IP. But it's I would like to, I don't know, to see that come back and be more of a regular type of thing. Like, okay, you can have inconsistencies, you can have like stuff that like the liberty of it takes some liberties with the IP and the interpretation of it, and treat it like an anthology. And when I was younger and I was discovering Alien, I thought it was actually the point. I thought it would be like every movie would have a different feeling, a different iteration of the creature and that sort of stuff. Which to an extent that's pretty much what those movies are, but I like to think that we did that for the game. Personally, I think I was, if I was ever to work on a Alien game, I would have made something closer to Dark Descent than Fireteam Elite. Not dissing here, but it's just like it's I guess I prefer that version of the Canon, and I like to have that, kind of retro future type of vibe, aesthetically and that sort of stuff. It's really close to my heart, so I was quite pleased when I saw that the guys at Tindalos were on the same page.
That's something Caleb kind of brought up earlier as well in the chat. He said, I loved how many different types of alien-style environments the game has.
Yeah.
Lets you play through pretty much every kind of location you'd want to go in the Alien universe.
Mm-hmm.
Which I agree with. I think the game's great in terms of visual continuity as well as variation as well.
Yeah.
Like right now, this mission's very much Sadler's Hope.
Yes.
And it's a nice way. And the first mission was very Nostromo-esque. It was very Alien Isolation-esque as well. And it was a nice way to sort of ease you into this world of Dark Descent before taking you off in other directions that were very obviously a part of the same universe and shared a lot of the same visual language.
Yes, exactly.
But it wasn't a retread, which was great. That's what else have we got here? So you probably can't say too much on this one. Dave Wesker asks in terms of how much freedom you had in terms of the storytelling, or was there a list of you can't do this, you have to do this, especially in light of the franchise, the huge franchise implications of the end of the game?
I don't think we had like actual guidelines about that, so I think I felt mostly free, but also you have to remember that I arrived on that project when the production had already started, so a lot of the things were already mapped out and outlined, and so the studio, 20th Century Studios were okay with most of the stuff that we had shown and planned, so I didn't hear that sort of stuff, and I think the one rule they are very eager to respect is the fact that the creature is the perfect organism, and it shouldn't be easy to defeat or to understand, or basically you cannot pierce its secrets easily, and you cannot also overcome that xenomorph like any, I don't know, like a simple creature from Earth or that sort of stuff. It is the perfect organism, and we're very eager to respect that. And it was quite, not difficult, but it was a challenge for us, because obviously at some point in the game you have plenty of accessories and weapons, and so you have plenty of things at your disposal to overcome the xenomorph. So we had to find different variants of the creature, new challenges, and to make sure that balance was right. But other than that, I think it was, that must be their secret rules, right? Their most sacred, not secret, sorry, rule. Other than that, I don't think we had like any, like people imagine on the internet, like, oh, the studio must have said that they cannot do this or they cannot do that. Usually we were always able to have a conversation. Obviously, sometimes they were not very keen on doing whatever concept, just because it was probably maybe reminiscent of something that didn't work out, or maybe something that was planned for the future, or that was already explored in a upcoming game, that sort of stuff. But usually it was always a nice discussion, and I mean I was very much surprised because I don't know if I had mentioned in the previous show, but I used to be like a journalist in video games and pop culture in general, and I always thought that studios must have like guidelines and very tight stuff, and they probably have on certain projects, but usually in video games, from what I heard and from my experience, it's more of a discussion, and I was really pleasantly surprised with what we managed to to do and to pull off, just thanks to discussions and concept art and everything we did. I mean, obviously they expect a lot from you, and they want to make sure everything is valid, and they will observe every rendered object, every character, every creature, everything is really closely monitored. But it was usually a long process, but not a bad one, as some on the internet might imagine. I hope that answers the question without saying that much.
Without revealing the goods.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
It's fair. It did sound like it was a very pleasant collaboration based on what you said when you were on the show before, which is
Yeah.
always nice to hear. Because
I mean, that was also my experience because I came in pretty late into the production, so obviously I didn't have to plan out all that stuff. Maybe I would have said differently, but the people were like nice and quite eager to make the best game possible. So I don't think we had trouble there. No.
I actually have a question for you. So, when that when that first teaser trailer came out, how much of the game had been written at that point?
So you mentioned the Summerfest trailer, right? The first one, like, yeah. So the game was pretty much written at this point, because that must have been summer 2022. Does that sound right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I joined late 2021, and Matthew had written like a first version of every mission. So we had already like what I will call and refer to as a first draft, but it's not a first draft per se, like we understand it in Hollywood and screenwriting stuff. But yeah, we had a solid first draft of the game, so the game was written, and I was actually making my way up to the different missions and cutscenes and interludes that we had. And so I guess we were already quite pleased with at least the first half, I think, of the game was pretty much solid and implemented. And I wrote in chronological order, so that was quite fun to do, and also quite pleasant because you know how to make the game more intense, mission after mission, level after level. So yeah, it was pretty. So we were not really late. We didn't have like big surprises waiting to happen, except maybe for the last mission. But I don't know if we want to spoil the fun here. But basically, the last mission of the game introduced some, I mean, lore-wise, big elements visually and in terms of concept as well. And so that sort of stuff was already discussed, and I think it wasn't validated until the end of that year. So yeah, but except for that sort of stuff, everything was at least mapped out. The outline was there, most of the lines were there, and I was trying to make my way up to the different missions and trying to improve the flow and the dialogues and make the cutscenes, sometime longer, sometimes shorter, depending on what we needed. So yeah, and if that sort of, I mean, I guess we already talked about that, and if you cross-reference that show with the previous show, you will learn a lot of pretty much what was written at that point.
No. No, stop, Marine.
You not have the cancel all button behind.
No. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I really should have a silencer by this point because it's gonna screw me a bit.
You've been back to the ship as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I didn't unlock that yet.
Good lord, you're supposed to be the good gamer.
I know.
But he's doing quite well, I
Oh
think.
well, thank
I mean,
you.
on my side of the I don't know, on the scale of game journalist to narrative designer, I don't know, that scale goes pretty low, I guess, for me. But yeah, I cannot beat that game. It's just too hard for me. I mean, not except for story mode, that I think was made just because I asked for. No, that's not exactly what happened. But we thought we have a great story. We should let people enjoy it, even though, you know.
I do think it's very much appreciated. You know, Chevy was in the chat. You know, was messaging me earlier about he'd just been going through the game on story mode as well, through it again, just because he wanted to experience it through and get all the data pads and stuff like that without having the super stressful time. So
yeah, it's get intense. I mean, that game is playing on your nerves, right? I mean, it's sometimes it feels so punishing for me. When I was first discovering it, I was like, guys, you like to, I mean, you must think of my little heart, because it's gonna implode at some point.
And Caleb says these caves took me ages to get through.
I mean, the like all credits goes to to our level designers, because they like to have those maze and labyrinthic caves, and what else do we have? Mines. We have, I don't know, so many, like the level that I think is most impressive in that regard is the atmospheric nightmare, like the atmospheric processor.
That was a rough one. Yeah,
Such a hard level.
This one is just so damn rough. I remember our conversation with the level designer Ludovic, and I was always saying, like, man, I think people will stop the game at this point, because it's just too hard.
Well, I like how the game says that right off the bat. It warns you, like, this is a difficult game.
But if we all friends here, and so I can say that. But it was even more difficult when we built it. I mean, that level specifically was a proper atmospheric nightmare. Like, really, it was impossible. It was really hard. I don't think we kept, like, all the ideas that Ludovic had with the I think nowadays if you put the lights on, they stay on, but I think there was a version of that mission where you had to keep going back for the generator.
Keep going back for it.
Yeah. And that was just too much, and I thought that idea. I was like, no. I mean, if people have the dedication and the patience to find the generator, that should be rewarded for good, not for 30 minutes. Or so. I mean, 30 minutes would have been nice, but it was mostly for like 3 or 4 minutes, that sort of stuff.
That is very much appreciated, Thibaut.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to have, like, a newbie like me in the process, or a young blood, like, joining the team, realizing, like, you guys have pushed it too far. It's always good. I mean, on another project, I had the same sort of experience when people join and they were saying, like, why do we keep hammering our players with that sort of stuff? And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. It's always good to take a step back and realize that maybe we pushed it a bit too far.
It's got to be a difficult, like... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's got to be a difficult balance to strike, because, like, you have video games that are known these days for being difficult, right? And they kind of take pride in that, like the From Souls games, or come to mind, or From Software, like the Dark Souls games, Elden Ring, stuff like that. So I do feel like XCOM is kind of one of those games where it's like, yeah, we know this game is difficult. Like, that's why you work on it and get better at it. But at the same time, yeah, you can't overdo that where it just feels like a slog, where it just feels like you're knocking your head against a wall. It has to it can be a challenge and be difficult, but it has to, be achievable for most people if they actually work at it. So I'm sure it's a difficult balance to achieve.
It is, yeah, and especially I think Tindalos were always keen to make games that feel a bit more. I mean, uh, quote unquote hardcore, like more for gamers and that sort of terminology that I hate. But that sort of games that were actual, like challenges. But also when you invest a lot into the lore and the story and everything, you want people to see that sort of stuff, and that's where having uh, granularity in the difficulty and the story mode potentially, that sort of stuff really helps, I think, selling the game to more people, not selling in monetary terms, but like trying to get everyone involved on the long run, because it can be a long game and it's also a difficult one, so it's nice to balance that out, as you said.
Adam, sorry. Go back and get mines as well.
Well, I'll do it after this. Earn 100 materials, sure.
Oh, you're just throwing the days away.
I know, this ain't gonna be my proper playthrough. I'll probably have to redo this. This is just for the stream.
I'm sorry, I made you lose focus.
No, this game. That's the thing too. Is like Is there a bad ending for this game where if you just run out of days, the planet gets nuked? Like, I haven't seen that. Is there? Is there like a cinematic for that?
I don't think we have. I think we have a bad ending for that, but I don't think we have a proper cinematic for it. I don't know. I think one of my friends mentioned that he had 2 missions left, including like the last one that is mostly narrative, but like the last 2 missions he had left, and he had 2 days, and he managed to do it. I don't know how, but he said like, oh, they granted me a bonus, of a few days, and so he managed to do it with a few deployments. But yeah, I don't think we have a proper thing for this, and mostly we have securities. I mean, not to say that you can throw them away, because the bonuses I don't think are infinite, but yeah, we throw a few days to help you out here and there.
Where's my recon? Is that this one? No.
At the top, is
Oh,
your
right here.
highest,
Right here. Okay, yeah. So I give him a sniper rifle.
Oh, actually, Dave said that we
special.
have a reload, and you go back to the main menu.
Okay. Yeah, Dave said in the chat. Funny, it kind of would have been nice. It kind of would have been nice to have had a bad cinematic.
Yeah. I think that was mentioned at some point, but we were pretty late, running pretty late with the production, so we probably, prioritize the better ending, I would say.
I mean, that's fair. Just those ones can kind of be funny, like
Yeah, you can actually do pretty good stuff with that sort of stuff. I would have loved it. I mean, from a narrative standpoint, it's always fun to. That's the beauty of video games. Like, you can plan, alternative endings, and also like some cruel type of ending cinematic where everybody dies, and that's pretty fun. But no, I was a good boy and only did the good ending cinematic.
Joe's joined us in the chat. Welcome, Joe.
Hello, Joe.
Okay.
Jelly Sheep says, I find it amusing that Hunslet has a first name she apparently hates people saying, yet she ridicules the name of the sergeant's daughter.
Conspirator. The stress relief by each Marine during arrest is reduced by 10 points. Interesting. Another thing that I found was fun about that first cinematic that you guys showed for the initial teaser trailer was like, it looked like a Marine was kind of leaving another one to die. Like,
yeah.
And I was like, is that going to be an element in the game? Like, can you betray each other and stuff? But I guess that might have been a bit too, I don't know, convoluted.
I think some of the effects were, I mean, they can actually go pretty far, but it was as far as we could push it, because at the end of the day you have to remain in control of your squad and that sort of stuff. But you can have, like, there are some combos between the the personalities of the different marines that can be quite bad for your nerves. But that's also coming from the RPG, and it makes for great lines that I had to write as well. But yeah.
I'm curious. Did you guys ever play the RPG?
Yeah.
You did sessions amongst
No,
yourselves?
I mean, I played it on my side, and they did. We didn't do it during the production, but I think they did it beforehand, and yeah, I had tested it before joining the team. But I think a friend of mine is actually running an actual play show on YouTube, and he mentioned we should do like with a team, like a proper show.
Yes.
With a fake RPG, with everybody involved. That would be fun.
It would be brilliant. We're talking about starting up our own actual plays next month. Actually,
That would be nice. That would be nice.
we've played it loads, but we've generally always played it just between ourselves. And we were like, yeah, it's time to start streaming some of this. Me and Adam always seem to be at odds with each other, don't we?
It's
Yeah,
not
so
it's
me and
not
you
our
trying to
fault.
kill each
It's we're assigned our agendas, and they're usually
Yeah.
at odds with each other.
You have the conspirator trait.
Well, now I can be a little sneaky with my sniper rifle that's silent. See, that's another thing I like. Like, the aliens always feel like a threat, even when you're just getting headshots
equipped.
on them and taking them out instantly. Like, you still never want to disturb them, because when you get swarmed, it's serious business. So let's see if I can take this one out without alerting it here. Oh, okay.
I liked the Trimonite references as well in this.
Gotta
one.
have line of sight here. Come on. Here we go.
Have you not
Ah,
pause
man.
mode yet?
What?
Oh.
Said, have you not took it off pause mode yet?
No, I have not. Oh boy. Okay.
Oh wow, that was a sneaky one. Nice one.
Yeah, this end bit of the first proper mission is pretty challenging.
To be fair, like I try and do my missions in one run as much as I can.
Yeah.
I was super cautious of like the death clock, but when it came to this one, this was when I learned sometimes you've really got to go back to the ship, start fresh.
There we go.
With like the hive awareness, aggressiveness meter.
Yes. It's such a punishing mechanic. I mean, I love it, but if you underestimate it, it will hammer you down.
Oh, definitely, yeah, for sure. I mean, talking about like the difficulty of the game, as it was mentioned earlier, it being difficult also means it's much more rewarding. Like I had the same experience with Isolation. That's a fucking hard game.
Yeah.
At times, especially because
As stressful as that, at that.
Yeah, it genuinely was as stressful as this game can be.
Yeah.
But, when you beat it, it's just so fucking satisfying, and that even feels more thematically correct and relevant as well, because one of the things I love about the Alien series is the world's unfair. Ripley knows this, Shaw knows this, Daniels knows this, and I find it very thematic. So it's one of the things I do enjoy about this game.
Yeah, definitely that sort of stuff. Like rhyming with basically what we know about the IP nowadays, and everything that we have talk about, like life isn't fair and that sort of stuff. It's quite nice to I don't think it's conscious, like we did stuff like because it felt right. But now that sometimes when you say it, I'm like, yeah, of course that's how it works. That of course it sounds true to the IP, but I don't even think we had conversation about that. But it just makes sense when you say it, and And our first queen right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I was surprised that you guys threw one at us at the end of this mission off the bat, but I mean that was
Yeah.
kind of cool how many of them you face in this game.
It was nice to be able to justify how much xenomorphs were on the planet first and foremost, and I think as well it was a nice surprise because usually the end boss, sorry, of every alien game, but it was discussed. I mean, at some point I know that they were a bit more spread out throughout the different levels, but at the end, in the end, I think we made the right decision just because it feels. It feels cool and
man.
also what the effect I think that I like the most about it is that you are you're in your first mission and you're like, I'm already facing a queen, so what will be next? And that was nice to put to put how damn I cannot English anymore, to throw people off guard. That was the idiom I was trying to find.
Yeah. That it worked. It certainly, when I opened that door, I was like, "What? Already?"
Is it the
no,
end of the game already? Is it one mission? Just one mission? No, we have plenty of queens. We have, I think, optional queens as well.
There's one optional queen, I think,
Yeah, maybe one.
in the underground bunker.
Yeah, that's it. We
I
probably
don't-
had more. That's why I was saying that. Don't mind me.
Kalen was giving you some shit there.
For the turrets.
Double Gorman.
Yeah, before the
Yeah,
cutscene. Yeah.
As you did it, I was like, for fuck's sake, Adam, come on.
Well, I thought in this one, like, you had to approach her before she gets off of her ovipositor, but nope.
Kalen says there's one on the docks level too, an optional queen.
Interesting. You know, that's always hard. I'm always worried. I mean, now that the game is out, I think it's fine. But I was always worried to say something like, "Oh, you have that much optional queen," and I actually they change it. Because it's quite hard when you're working like 2 years. I mean,
Track of it, yeah.
yeah, keep track of every decision. I think what I like the most about this thing in particular, the mind thing with the queen, is the lighting. It's pretty cool in that scene. I think really
Oh yeah.
atmospheric.
I think that's pretty constant throughout the entire campaign. really.
Yeah. Francois, our lighting artist, he studied like the photography of the second movie quite closely, and he had all these shots mapped out on his desktop, on his computer. And I think we had a long chat one day about how he could improve the light of different levels to set the tone, the atmosphere right. I think it was one of the most interesting talk I had during the production. And I remember we were mentioning those those red flares that you see there as a way to balance it out, because it was quite cold in the earlier versions of the scenes, and it was maybe a bit dull, and now we have like the two lights, the two sort of lights, clashing against each other. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was nice. Casper Swagger's joined us. Casper Swagoo, sorry. Oh, and White Band says, isn't there also an optional queen in the city?
So I was right. Multiple optional queens.
Multiple. I'll shut my mouth.
Until I say something that's not in the game anymore, and then I will have to shut up as well.
So Jelly Sheep is asking, is the power that Cassandra and the Sarge have the same kind of empathic link that Alan Decker has in Sea of Sorrows?
It was definitely Romain, our game director, when he first mentioned that, and he really he was really impressed by that and quite inspired by that element of the lore, reading the book. And so he really wanted to push that one in the game. So to my understanding, it was always there. Maybe not on the same characters as we ended up, using, but it was always planned to have it, and it also obviously it makes for a great gameplay mechanic, alerting you from nearby xenomorphs. So yeah, it comes from the same sort of stuff.
Adam, go back. The entrance is in the hive, in the Queen's Chamber.
Oh, you mean the bridge?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Good lord, man.
I know.
I'm distracting him.
I think this is normal.
Oh, come on. I am
You
rusty
can-
on this game.
Yeah.
Any excuse. So, Thibaut, some of the questions that we didn't get a chance to ask in the podcast that you came on.
Yeah.
So, Bobby Brown would like to know more about what Marlowe was intending to accomplish and what his plan ultimately was. Is that something you can? You got
Definitely,
any
yes.
details to dish?
Yes. I can talk about that. Actually, last time I took some notes about that. So I have to say, first and foremost, thank you for the question, Bobby Brown. That made me think. Because I used to hear a lot about that when I was working on the project. So basically, what I would like to say is that we have to remember that Marlowe isn't really a model, but like several models. And so we had different ideas and opinions about that. But I guess the original model and the original idea we had for his backstory was he was a Wayuu scientist trying to unlock immortality, basically. Became mad, created a cult in the process. So that's very sort of your typical villain trajectory right here. But the more interesting was the motivation the other Marlows had, because he basically trying to find the secret of immortality. He kind of did, because he cloned himself with synthetics. So I don't know if clone really apply here, but you get the idea. So, but the different iteration of himself, they might have different opinions about what to do with his project and with that sort of lore we create throughout the game. So some of them might, want to spread that gift of xenosynthesis, that concept we introduced in the game. That maybe we can be uh, reborn, like actually as a xenomorph. And so I guess it's not really that much different from what we see in Prometheus and Covenant, like with the Michael Fassbender releasing the the thing throughout the galaxy. Others were maybe other Mallows were probably trying to just study Cassandra and her relationship with the Hive, or just xenomorphs in general. So it's not something that we really had to settle, I would say, in terms of the backstory. Not to say that we didn't have that conversation before you asked the question, but I guess it was more of an open kind of ending, like probably different models trying to do different sort of things. Some of them are very scientist minded. Others are more about the cult, about the Darwin era surviving and spreading, and others might just be, you know, weirdly thinking of Cassandra as like their pet project or their daughter in a twisted way. So you can actually make the argument that there's not really like
On vision.
one mission, one plan he was trying to accomplish. But on Leafy specifically, not to let you down with that answer, I guess he really, at first and foremost, really wanted to make that cult bigger and make more people embrace that gift of xenosynthesis. But because he died, pretty much during in the process, and was replaced by Symph. It was basically I thought about it as sort of an empire falling down, because like the emperor died, and like his sons, they're they don't have the same objective, the same idea about what to do with all that knowledge that he found. So we could go actually like different in different directions, and actually we did. Like mission 7 with the Montero was definitely either the original model or one of them trying to spread the gift and using the ship to infect more people, and other models were staying deep underground on Leafy, studying that superb city we have. I'm trying not to. I saw people in the chat saying that they wanted to, they just bought the game, so I don't want to spoil everything. But yeah, I don't know if that. What do you think of that answer, Aaron?
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about them being not the original Marlowe. So this idea of it's almost like the guys who picked up for Dune after Frank Herbert
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like that, and I found that really an interesting perspective to have on it. Yeah.
And it was also, I mean, it's quite poetic of me to say, like it's an empire, and the emperor has died. His son have to pick up. They don't agree with each other, but it was also, to be perfectly honest with you, like a great answer to handle all the different missions that we had and trying to make sense of the different uh, plot lines that the game is actually handling, because there are a lot of missions, there are a lot of data pads that kept referring about stuff that was very niche, like lore or story wise. I mean, if you actually you do a normal run and you don't go deep into the lore and everything, you might miss. So I think that was the most satisfying answer I found for myself working on the game. Like, oh yeah, there are several models. So if he died like a few years ago, and I think we learned that yeah, at the end of the game, probably there were a lot of sort of plot lines that were, or actually plans, from his point of view. From my point of view, there are plot lines, but stuff that didn't see the light of day, didn't came to fruition. So that was quite fun to use as a way to justify all that sort of secondary type of intrigues and little secrets and Easter eggs you can find in the game. And I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's good. Caspers. Oh.
Yeah, that's
this one's
a
big one.
little spoilery though. So if you're trying to
Yeah.
avoid spoilers, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
If
we have to. I mean, that was just for the people mentioning it into the chat. But if you do, just mute ourselves for a few. Well, we'll just mute us for a few minutes.
So
Come back to the stream.
Casper says, do you have any in-depth information about the ancient citizens who gave birth to the Titans we see at the end of the game? So I think Adam and I's takeaway from this was space jockeys. What's
No,
your take?
my take was that they were referred as ancient citizens in an ancient city. I think we had a lot of discussion with the IP, trying to make sense of what we wanted to do. I don't think there is like a proper backstory that was ever settled for them. So I will have to go with either what will be described as a poetic or bullshit answer. Once again, is that I think as alien fans, we were more in love with the potential and the idea of the space jockey than the actual answer, if that makes sense. I mean, those sort of stuff that is so wide and new and crazy that it 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 put your imagination your imagination on fire, sorry. And basically what we wanted to create with the end of the game was that same sort of stuff, tap into the same sort of feeling. And yeah, so I think it would be a mistake trying to go with that because I think that's what we wanted to do. And at the same time, give a proper answer like these are the space jockeys we wanted to see, or these are the original space jockeys, or they might be different. There might be something else. There might be a mix of the different answers we already seen in the movies. So I know, and I'm very conscious that it is not a very satisfying answer, but yeah, we don't have a proper in-depth information, as you put it, about the ancient citizens and why they were here. But we wanted to very much show that was the intent was to create the same sort of effect that we had and we had experience watching the first movie. So hopefully that will kind of smooth you out.
I mean,
it won't be too harsh of an answer.
I just loved the ending bit so much, like everything y'all did with that, because it took me back to kind of it felt like older EU, exploring some of those elements, as opposed to some of the post prequel interpretations, which
Yeah,
I guess if you like the prequels, you could say the who created them route, but it still kind of breaks Covenant, which I like. Yeah, it felt like a very classic interpretation of that, and I think there's room enough for both. I think there's room enough for both
definitely.
interpretations.
We talked about interpretation before in the stream, and I think it is in the same vein that last reveal was really there to prove that we could still explore that sort of original shock and that we had experienced years prior, and yeah, I don't think it really necessarily goes against what we saw in the prequels, but I like to think that it's a big galaxy and that we can have mysterious Lovecraftian sort of stuff, still in that franchise. And we'll see where that goes. Hopefully, I'll have the chance to tell you more if we ever make, sequel or DLC. Or probably we won't actually give a proper answer. We'll continue to add more mystery.
I mean, the mystery is part of the fun, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm very much like people who have listened to the first show would have probably understand by now, but I'm very much like more of a mystery guy than the actual answer. Although sometimes the answer, I'm not against Prometheus. Like for instance, the fact that space jockeys it's actually a suit or like exoskeleton. I think that was actually quite well thought and surprising. But it's always once someone does that, the alternative after a myth like that, like the space jockeys are, it's just like the alternative will always sound and look better. So I'm very much also conscious about the fact that we have the good role, in that story. We're like, oh yeah, we did the original stuff. But I don't think it was that. I think it was more about tapping in that original feeling and also developing like a more Lovecraftian atmosphere.
It's definitely appreciated bringing that sensation back to the the franchise. Because don't get me wrong, I'm very much a guy who wants answers. In that drove me into the expanded universe. The reason I'm as interested in all of this stuff is because I wanted answers to the space jockey, and that led me to things like destroying angels and stuff like that. But then when it comes to Prometheus, it's more of a but these aren't the answers I kind of wanted kind of
Yes.
kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, there are things I appreciate very much about the engineers. I think they're genuinely creepy on their own, in their own rights. But yeah, to have that sense of ancient cosmic horror mystery returned in the way that the Xeno City does at the end of this was really, really nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you guys.
I mean, I was on Perfect Organism podcast talking about that with Patrick and Christian. And Christian, he's a big Lovecraft guy, so I know he very much appreciated kind of bringing that back a bit as well after Covenant,
Yeah.
because Covenant,
I re-
if you take the director's interpretation, like, it is very much like the aliens are a newer race, and if there's one thing I feel like we kind of recoil a bit as fans, it's things that kind of close the universe and the possibilities of the universe a bit. And that was
Yes.
kind of a worry we had with Prey, is some of the initial marketing talk of like, oh, this is the first time the Predators have ever been to Earth. Well, then you're cutting off all these stories you could tell prior to that.
Yeah,
Where
it's pretty weird. I think it's sometimes marketing,
It-
will
that-
invent narrative that nobody aboard that project would have thought about. But yeah, that happens. But I'm all about, not closing that universe, and it's especially like for sci-fi and everything space related. Once the galaxy feels small, it's over. I feel like, so we're very much trying not to make it feel smaller and more understandable. We wanted that cosmic aura, as Aaron said.
yeah, Sizzy Bubbles says, I do like devs having some freedom rather than having to conform to some controversial film rules. Yeah, I mean, that... I almost kind of wish the films had that freedom too, which is why I was so excited for Blomkamp's project. But, from what we've heard now, like, I don't know, it could have been a cluster. You never know. So
Love Blomkamp. love.
I still need to see Gran Turismo.
Oh, I did see Gran Turismo, and sadly, I didn't see that much of him in that movie. But that's another. Although Casper was asking if we could ask questions unrelated to the game. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
I won't talk about Gran Turismo right now. But yeah, the Blomkamp project was interesting for that reason alone. I mean, we would never see the movie, so it's always good. It's always super easy to say, oh, it would have been better than Covenant or whatever. But I think for that reason alone, that he was creating it was bringing back that anthology flavor I was mentioning, earlier. Like, a guy came and said, you know what, I'll do Alien 2.5, not 3, and you'll have to deal with it. And I think in the age of where franchise, like, they are everlasting, they have to be consistent, they have to you have a spin-off of a spin-off of a spin-off. It was quite refreshing. I love Alien 3, a little secret about me right here, but I wasn't against it. I thought it was interesting to say, in that universe we could always treat Aliens as an anthology and try to create alternate history, or just like a movie that would be good on its own right, with the older, Hicks and whatever. So I would have loved to see that. I mean, obviously the quality of the movie itself matters, but I guess just for the sake of putting that idea out there that it's still possible to to do stuff with it, it would have been lovely. Because my biggest piece of criticism against Covenant is, as you mentioned, it closes kind of the question. And I think making something that is another Alien 3 doesn't really answers anything. It's just like another side project. If I mean, that sounds bad, but I think I think it in the best way possible. Like, like you actually can do a movie between those two movies and try to make your own version of it. That would have been lovely to see, I think.
Yeah, and Blomkamp said like he wasn't trying to replace like 3 or Resurrection, so it's not like it's a new canon. It's just like it would be an alternate.
No,
canon.
but I think in the world we're living in right now, it would have been difficult
Yeah.
to market that would have been difficult. Although, back in the day, we were not asking ourselves that sort of questions, and nobody would care. I mean, obviously people and fans would care, but it wasn't it wouldn't make as much noise as nowadays.
I mean, it would have been a gamble for the studio for sure.
Yes,
I mean,
because what if it works and then you have to do a sequel of that movie specifically, and then you cancel the 3 and 4 and whatever? I don't know, but if you assume as a studio, like you're actually, presenting yourself as an anthology. Why not? It would be interesting. Like series, TV shows, they do that, but
Mhm.
in movies, I don't think, and especially with an IP as big as this one, I don't think it's as easy. But it would be interesting for sure. Maybe, with the Fede Alvarez movie and what will come after that. Who knows?
I love Alien 3 as well, the original. So I was always a little bit, even though he said, it's not going to replace Alien 3. It's not like he's coming into all our houses and burning all our copies of the film or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it was more that kind of storytelling in this day and age feels like it's implying the existence of a multiverse and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And that does not feel appropriate for Alien, which is
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I was kind of like,
Yeah, it comes with the new kind of requirements nowadays, for sure.
I mean, you do see it sometimes with like the recent Halloween trilogy, right? Like it just
Exactly.
ignores some of the sequels and does its own thing. The first one I thought was pretty decent, but then the sequels to that I was going to add about. But I mean, Terminator's a prime example of it. Just
Yeah, but
they keep
Terminator
trying
takes
different
away with
things
it.
because it's time travel, right? But so I guess Halloween's a better example. But yeah, I mean, there is always a big risk with that, especially if you're trying to build like a big sci-fi universe. But I mean, even Star Wars did that a little bit. I remember these old Dark Horse comics that were like what if scenarios of the three movies.
Yes.
I can't remember what those were called, but I remember them being quite interesting. I don't know if they would do something like that now.
And that would be difficult. I would assume that it was interesting back in the day because it was so, I mean, so much had already been written, that they were allowing themselves to explore new stuff. But with the new direction, the merger, and everything, I think
Yep.
that would be difficult.
Yeah, and I know they did another comic that was based on kind of Ralph McQuarrie's original concept
Yeah.
designs.
Well, it's based on the original script, George's original
Yes.
script.
Yeah.
Which was, Adam, do you know who wrote that?
Do not.
Jonathan Riesler, right?
Rinsler wrote it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a familiar name.
Indeed. Still a crime he didn't get to do Alien 3. Casper has a non-Dark Descent related question for us.
Oh.
I think this obviously chip in if you've read the comic as well, Casper. But sorry, Thibaut. What's your take on the lava-like aliens we see in Bloodlines? They weren't in Bloodlines, were they? Assuming he's talking about the
Marvel
worm
comic.
things.
Yeah, the tubers, right?
Yeah, they were. Shit, what was the second arc called? Revival.
That's right. Bloodlines was the first, wasn't it? Or was that the third?
No, Bloodlines was the first. It's Revival, Bloodlines, Revival, and then Icarus. What did you think of the tubers, Adam?
I think you know how I felt about the tubers. I was not a big fan of the first two Marvel arcs. I do feel like they're doing better now. The recent fourth arc we just read was quite good, and the third one I had less problems with than the first two. I just thought they kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, what are these things? And the designs were pretty uninspired, I thought.
Yep,
yeah.
agreed. Have you read the Marvel comics, Thibaut? I can't remember.
I had read the first issue when it came out, and still, I'm basically way. I mean, I need to catch up. I didn't read anything else except the first issue when it came out.
You can skip the first three series.
I think
the third one's
nowadays.
okay.
I think nowadays the writer I like. I don't remember his name, but I'm a huge comic reader. I think he did some brilliant stuff in the like create our own type of stuff. So I need to check that out, and I also need to check the Predator one.
Oh yeah, but the Predator's been good. I mean, the first one had some rockier moments, but the second one was very solid, and the current Alien run by Declan Shelby has been really good as well. Yeah. So it's just reading back up the chat a little bit here. Jet lags, which Sarah says, I think that's so. This is talking about when we're talking about opening up the galaxy and bringing back the cosmic horror. I think that's why I enjoyed the Rage War series so much. It opened up so many doors and worlds that could be explored instead of narrowing. Yeah, the Rage Wars. We revisited this series at the start of the year in the podcast, and it's a surprisingly good space opera kind of sensation to the series, and the things that it does as well feels great. And I completely agree with you there, Sarah. Mitch says, as someone that enjoys the engineers and a consistent universe, that last level still blew my mind. I was like,
That's
okay,
good to hear.
all bets are off now. Caleb says, meanwhile, I was like, yeah, it's going to replace Alien 3. So Caleb was waiting at the door for Blomkamp to show up to get that copy of his DVD. And here's one for you, Thibaut. How fleshed out were the character backstories in your mind? Can Thibaut say more about like the insubordination incident that was mentioned in Hunslet's bio? Are we talking assaulting superiors, or not carrying out orders, or being disrespectful?
I think I had either written or read different stuff about that. I think what you're mentioning is what is available in the game codex, and that's pretty vague. I'd say. I mean, that's intentional. But I think I could tell you about a version of it I had. Either I wrote it somewhere and it didn't make the cut, or I have it in my mind, and that's pretty much my headcanon about the character. But it was about I think she had like received the order of basically like it's the leave no mind behind sort of things, like maybe like a Black Hawk Down situation with a dropship, and she was ordered to leave the man behind, the man she had transported to the field, and she actually refused to do that and took the plane, the dropship, saved them. Probably not every single one of them, but maybe tried to do some good. And then she was, someone was waiting on the tarmac to probably to demote her. Is that the word? I don't know. Or probably to say that she had break the orders and everything. But she wasn't, having any of it, and basically started a fist fight with an officer and that sort of stuff. So I guess that was either at Canon or earlier Canon, more fleshed out character bio. That sort of stuff is again not really necessary for the game or the codex. It's always nice to and appreciated when people came out with those questions, but I think I could always go back to that and change it if I feel like in a potential. This is by no means a confirmation, but potential like DLC or another game, I could always change the backstory to something more original or darker, or to have a little twist. But I think at least in my mind that was something like that, and I hope that gives you material to imagine more stuff about her.
Is that
Choose
something?
me. Sorry.
Is that something you would have told like the voice actors? Is that kind of?
Yes. So maybe that was when I actually talked to Ashley about that. I don't know. Maybe, probably, or maybe she asked and I gave more, or she suggested that. I don't remember everything. Um, but definitely the sort of stuff that we will try to feed the actor with, if that makes sense. They sometimes they need to find something more personal in that in that bio, so we try to flesh it out a bit. But Ash, if you following her on Twitter and her Unsled's adventures, she's a massive fan and a massive nerd, and so she was quite pleased to have like to have that character and her big mouth and having fun, with the jokes and the dad jokes mostly. But yeah,
That's good. Need to follow her on Twitter. Actually, I'm just looking her up now.
glorious death. Yes, those boxes were so fun to write, and also like a lot of like our voice actors when they did that in the booth, that was pretty funny.
I love the idea of a faction that wants to be infected.
Yeah,
I think it's brilliant.
very Lovecraftian as well. Yeah, in the code sort of things. I wish we could have done more with them. I have seen a lot of reviews saying that it was interesting, but also didn't work as well with the game mechanics compared to the different type of xenomorphs. And I think to an extent I agree. So I think I would love to revisit that idea, and even narratively it would have been fun to have more lines, more sort of enemies, but we're always limited by time and budget, of course.
Yeah.
We're
The
proud of
enemy
what
of
we did
every-
anyway, but
No, I think it works pretty well as is.
Oh,
And
man.
I think it's interesting to like the mentality of those people, the motivations of the people who'd be up for that kind of thing. I think is really
What
ripe
is
for
my
just
marine?
further exploration as well.
Uh-oh.
Because at the end of the day, the stuff you introduce in here but don't necessarily get to play with, it's then becomes a playground for the other authors, the other comic book writers and stuff like that.
yeah. I wish. I mean, I hope someone will pick up the Darwin Hour. That would be fun.
I think I might need to reload my save here because this marine doesn't want to follow me.
Oh no!
Let's see here.
Oh no.
As a member of the dev team, I would like to extend my
Hey,
apologies
so-
to Aaron.
Bugs
and
are an
Alan on
ongoing
stream.
process.
Yes. Sorry.
At the end of
It
the day,
happens.
Tinderloss has been pretty active in terms of taking the bug reports and stuff.
They are. They still are. They are quite a. I mean, they're obviously trying to break out on new projects, but they still have a lot of people dedicated to that, and had during summer and right after the release. I know that our devs they were quite worried about that.
Ow.
I suppose it's pretty active concern for a lot of game developers these days.
Exactly, yeah. But sometimes with especially this year with I hope it's gonna be we will never experience that, but it's a pretty bleak year for studios. So sometimes the game can I mean is released, it can be a success, everything's going well until layoffs, big groups changing, that sort of stuff. And,
So is
and
that-
then-
You were saying it's a rough year for studios, so has that kind of hit the game industry pretty hard recently then? Like this year in particular?
Yeah. I mean, we see a lot of, I guess, consequences of sort of decision making that was made during COVID and right after that. And I think a lot of the hopes maybe that some investors had doesn't really pay off as much as they wanted. Plus, media consolidation and bigger groups getting bigger and that sort of stuff. I mean, hits us pretty hard, especially across the Atlantic, but here in France as well. So hopefully we'll be fine. But it's always a concern when you just release the game that maybe you will not be here for live ups the thing and make sure that everything goes smoothly.
Yeah.
So everybody buy this game if you haven't already.
Yeah, a lot of money for me. No, that's not how it works. Damn.
So Sarah says, in regards to the powers, that Harper has.
Yes.
Was there ever any temptation to have the aliens influence them? the human characters.
The aliens influence the. I mean, aliens influencing people, or the other way around?
Aliens influencing like Harper and Cassandra.
Interesting idea. I don't think we ever thought of that. We thought about
Okay, so I
No,
gotta.
cheating.
Please don't patch this out. I gotta admit, I have I installed. Well, this is actually using NVIDIA Ansel for photo mode, but
Okay.
I've installed Reshade in the game, as you can see here, and so
Yes.
I had to like custom script a to get rid of the HUD this way, so I could do
Yes.
like a photo mode, like in-game
Nice.
screenshots.
Okay, I thought it was another bug that I never saw before, and I was quite scared. But okay, if you do it
So-
willingly, that's fine.
Yeah, but hey, like virtual photography is big now, so I
Yeah,
know
yeah, and
I know the Ascent added a photo mode, and that was really cool because you don't see them very often in top-down games like this.
yeah. And I saw a few things, a few pictures that were quite cool on Twitter when the game was released. So yeah, I understand the need. Next time photo mode. But yeah, to go back to the ID, I think I mean obviously the game mentions I mean kind of the possibility of you know, the powers influencing the xenomorphs, but that's pretty. It's a pretty complicated topic. Going back to the things I was saying about the IP and being the perfect organism, that if you can influence it, is it still the perfect organism? That's the problem. So we had to be very careful with that idea, so we didn't push it too far. Hopefully. The other way around, though, I don't think we ever talked about that, but it it is that sort of ideas. I shouldn't admit on the stream, but it's that sort of ideas that get me thinking that we could do great things with that. So we'll see. Thanks for the idea. I'll make sure you'll be in the thanks for the second game, if that makes sense. But if that ever come to fruition. But I don't know. It's just it would be interesting to see. But it also exploring sort of, you know, sacred grounds. It could be, you know, like, how do we want to know how xenomorphs they think, how they operate, how could they influence and everything? Maybe they would be it would either be extra creepy or potentially lose a lot of mystery. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to think about that.
There is some precedence for it. You know, the original series, the first comic had the Queen sort of like slightly influencing dreams. So it's not too outlandish in terms of the entire franchise.
Yeah, I imagine that they already touched upon that, but I'll have to deep dive and see what we can do with that potentially. But I like the idea, that's for sure.
Jelly Sheep is a fellow virtual photographer. Well, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
Reshade, I just barely. I think this game was the first time I ever used it. I always found it kind of intimidating. But for Fireteam Elite, I used Franz Boma's Unreal Engine Unlocker. And I used that one for this game too, although it does make the game prone to crashing, which is why I'm not doing it on the stream. But you can use it to get some really good screenshots, and I've just been really impressed by, for a top-down isometric game like this, like how detailed some of your models are in here. Like just zooming right up to the chest burster. Like you can barely see that thing from a top-down view like this, but up close, like it looks so good.
Yeah, I mean, all credit go to our artists and animators, and they're when so I remember like seeing on their computers the different, you know, like models and animations. I was like, it's almost a shame that I cannot zoom slightly more, you know, just to be right down the field. But obviously, it will create all sorts of bugs and problems. But yeah, I know those things are pretty detailed indeed. Yes, thank you for noticing.
So Jelly Sheep on his on their Hunslet obsession, basically asking the age of Hunslet because some of the concept art looks to be around about the same age as Pharaoh would have been.
Oh yeah. Good question. I think You know what? I will open some of the documents. Some of the secret documents in Tindalos, what's the word? Safe. Willa Hunslet, mid-20s, says my.
Very young.
So she's young, yeah. But, there is room for interpretation once again. I'm not sure if I actually buy that mid-20s. Probably early 30s by now, right? With all that flying. But also age works weirdly in Aliens because of the cryosleep thing.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's very true.
So. And I told you everything I knew. I know, Jelly.
That's right. I
Promise.
can't.
There's not much else on that backstory for that character.
I
The
can't go
direction
that
of the-
way,
of the
can I?
direct-
Well, I can't. The bridge is out there, so I
No,
gotta
you've got to go. You got to go to the other side,
wait.
down the bottom.
So here?
So down the bottom.
Okay,
Down the bottom.
I'm
Remember,
going.
you're delayed. You're delayed on the stream, so I can't quite.
Well, that's why I started streaming on Discord.
Oh, he's streaming on Discord as well.
Yeah. So then there's no delay.
Okay, hang on. Let me
Okay.
flick over.
So this dark spot here. Yeah, that looks like the way to go.
Yes. Right. So, he's always fucking distracting me. So
Sorry.
No, this is Adam distracting me with his.
Oh, okay. I thought I would have noticed.
No. So Caspers wants to know if we got our alien or predator costumes ready for Halloween yet.
That would be nice.
Ooh,
I would
the
love to
runner!
have- The runner. I would love to have
He's
Marine's
running.
costume one day.
Oh yeah.
They
Is
look so
it-
cool.
There's a guy fairly local to me actually in the UK that now does 3D printed armor.
Yeah. That's the way to go.
I have been tempted, but then I've also been tempted with chefs recreations. I hope one day I'll be able to get some of the armor because my cheap ass cosplay just tends to be some combat trousers, a shirt that says the Sulaco on it, and now I have a variety of pulse rifles. For bronze.
I mean,
Well, that's already something, It's just you have to start somewhere.
for someone
Adam,
whose
did
screen
you
name
ever-
is Corporal Hicks,
Yes,
the
but
fact that you've
remember
never been in marine armor.
Yeah, but you've got to also remember I'm a poor working class British man who can barely afford life. So, didn't you buy that fancy?
Yeah,
fancy,
so
the budget
I
alien.
do have an alien costume ready. I don't know if it's fancy, but yeah, it was about $100. It's a new one that came out. I think Halloween.com or something like that. It just came out earlier this year, I guess.
Well,
So I'll be wearing that to the Halloween party. It'll be a fun one.
That's nice.
you're actually going to a Halloween party in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, please.
Bring some pictures.
Well, as long as it's early in the night, yes.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Casper's then also says I want to make an overmorph basket full of sweets for the kids.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's so nice.
You know what? I really wish there was egg storage units. Was it NECA who made them? I can't remember. NECA did some replicas, but then there was another company that did some storage units as well. I wish they were more accessible. I can never find them because that'd be like a cool thing to have in the, the front door with sweets and goodies in.
Hopefully it lets me make a shelter this time. Yes. Good. Okay.
Dave Wesker says, is there any other franchise that you think this kind of Dark Descent kind of genre would work for, like Terminator or Tremors or etc.?
Interesting question. Terminator, I guess, would work well, but where would you put it? In the future, in the present? I don't know. That's
I feel like that's
tricky.
a future war kind of.
Yeah, more like it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but also the Terminator, it would be like firefights and everything. So I don't know if that translates properly. I don't know.
they tried to do a game like this for Silent Hill on the PS Vita called Book of Memories. and I never played through it, but I liked its promise better than its execution, I bet. So, like, if you were to do a game like this in Silent... But I don't know, it might be too action-y for that franchise, I guess. Maybe Resident Evil would be more suited to it, but...
You know what, Aaron? It's the time of the stream where I need to mention Warhammer 40,000.
Oh, go for it.
Make a great Warhammer 40,000 game with that
Space
sort of
Marines.
Yeah. Oh, not even Space Marines. They have like very much aliens inspired, like regular infantrymen. Yeah, and also Tyranids that are also Xenomorphs inspired. But I mean, it would be the same game if we do exactly that. But with a squad of Space Marine or just regular Guardsman, Imperial Guard, that would be nice against. I guess more diverse enemies, probably not Tyranids, but. I guess you could also make a great, real-time tactical with Star Wars as well, with the firefights, like probably, and maybe in spaceships interior, that would be nice.
I have been really impressed just with the sheer amount of Warhammer games coming out these days. I mean, there's that new retro shooter one that looks a lot of fun.
Bolt gun, yes, that's pretty cool.
But there was like it looked like it was like a first-person kind of horror-themed Tyranid one. What was that one called? Deathwing, right?
Yeah, Space Hulk Deathwing. Yes,
Yeah.
Space Hulk is very much inspired by Aliens, like the movie. So they even have the motion tracker is actually a mechanic in the board game, the actual miniatures game originally. And so they call that, I think they call them blips. And the blips are, little tokens you put on the board, and they reveal, whatever. I mean, you can have 1, 2, 3, I think, enemies hidden against that token, represented by the token. So it's definitely compatible with that sort of Dark Descent formula, if we put it like that. But it will be also very close to what our friends did on the FPS Space Hulk. I mean, the view would change, but the idea would be the same. Yes, very much like a cosmic horror, small squad of elite fighters.
Things are not going well for me.
Not well, yes. I was trying to offer support, but I think shotgun, it's nice. But
So Casper says, and I know you'll not be able to answer this one, or there's no answer to provide, but will there be DLC?
I mean, I would love to. Sadly, it's kind of out of our hands now that the game is out. If the game does well, I guess that's probably a conversation that we'll have with the partners and publisher. But I know that also we didn't have plans for the.
That guy took
DLC.
a lot of shock.
Oh wow! Yeah, he's that.
Oh, Adam.
Oh
Adam.
no! Oh no!
Hey, those cultists are tough, man. They're dedicated to their cause.
Get behind the cover.
I did. They ran around it and swarmed me.
But Adam saved me from the question. I don't know how to answer that. So yeah, no, but basically
no
we
comment.
Yeah, no, but we don't have plan at this. I mean, when I worked on the project, we didn't have plans for DLC. I think the idea was pretty much to release the game as smoothly as possible, see how people react, and then regroup and probably decide on what's next. But if you want one or a sequel or any kind of continuation, just let them know. Let Focus know. Let 20Fs know. And well, Tyndales would love to work on another one. That's for sure. But we'll see.
I think we all want you to as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually had a great. I mean, that I can say because it doesn't really. I mean, I don't have a contract yet, but I had great ideas for potential sequels this summer. Like sometimes you take a step back, you try to relax, and then suddenly you have the best ideas. That's what happened during the summer. I was like thinking way too much about what we could do with another one.
Maybe this
when I was actually working on this one, I was kind of I guess, burned out at some point. You're like, ooh, that's nice.
Going off now.
Yeah.
Uh,
He,
You always have to like struggle with the engine a bit because it wasn't made for this.
no, and it showed. And it shows.
That looks good. Jelly Sheep said, I'm still trying to get a helmet made by Terry English. Yeah, I forgot Terry did the replicas still. That'd be cool. Oh, look who else has joined us in the chat, Mr. Xander House.
Oh, welcome, Xander. Good to
Hello,
see you
hello.
as always. And it's
Wanting
very
to buy the
slimy in here.
Oh, and Jelly Sheep also says, remember in the late 80s, early 90s when some shops in the UK sold chest-burster t-shirts with the rubber replicas bursting out, with the blood stains all around?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I really want to own one of those friggin' classics or some replica of them. I know people like to recreate them as well, and they look brilliant. One of my favourite t-shirts, in fact, is just the chest-burster print on it.
Oh, here comes a drone.
Chevy says he's currently sat gluing magnets to his towel.
Oh wow.
And
Magnets. That's hard. I don't do
Oh,
magnets.
he's going around. He's a smart one. He's a fast learner.
Okay, still collating from the boards has joined us. We haven't actually asked his question from the overflow from last time. So
Let's go.
He says, love the games. Why did the Marlows let Cassandra go free? If it's not thought out, no problem. But Cassandra kept saying at the end something was wrong.
Yeah. So the thing Cassandra was referring about, I think, was the Titans, the Xeno Titans there, but about why Marlowe let her free. I guess the it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the idea of having several Marlows. And I understand it's kind of cheating at this point, but the idea was, I guess one was maybe one was probably trying to stop them, but others were okay with leaving Cassandra be. We sometimes spoke about, a council of Marlow, and as I was saying, I referred to as an empire, but also I think we dropped, references to Greek mythology, like it's a sort of a pantheon, and of course Cassandra, also the name comes from Greek mythology, so that made sense in my mind. And so I guess they're a bit of, they're a plot point where I thought maybe some of those model or one of them was like, you know what, it's time for her to let her fly with her own wings and see what happens next. Basically, she is a connection, a bridge for humanity, as I think we mentioned in the game, and so they want to try her out and make the experiment, try the experience it until the end and see where it leads. So basically that was the idea. I kind of understand, and I was actually quite surprised when I discovered like everything that Tindalos had laid out. At first I was like, should we really let her go, but it would have make for a darker story if she was abandoned in the city or something like that. So personally I think she was Cassandra was more important for the followers of the cult than the leaders, so that's why they care little for escape. But we could also imagine that they had found something more useful in the city. So Cassandra is one thing, but what we discover there is even better. So we don't need her anymore. So again, different, open, different. It's sort of an open answer, and different interpretations are available to you. But to be perfectly honest, the team and I agreed on one explanation, and that was that most model want to see her spread her wings and accomplish great things. A weird way, I guess, to test her sinister to test, sorry, their sinister theories about synthesis and everything. So that was the idea, and I hope that answers at least partly to the question.
Cool. So, Cass, this one's more of a general thing. Casper says, "Why, apart from a few references, isn't there a single comic that features David?" That will probably be because, in general, and I'm sure Thibaut might be able to correct us here, our understanding is that you do not play with the current movie's stuff.
Yeah. That I mean, I didn't receive the order as powerfully as you said it, but it's probably that sort of stuff. Like, but it's kind of bound. I mean, it will probably change very much soon, right?
When it looks like Ridley's not going to get to do that third film, that's when they might start playing with it.
Yeah, I guess that's the idea, but.
Do any of you? So Jelly Sheep says, "Do any of you own the board game, Another Glorious Day in the Cause?" I haven't played my copy yet, but it looks so good. Yeah, so I've played a few rounds with it with Chevy, of course. There's nobody else I play with in person other than Chevy. I enjoyed it. It's very much a nice sort of spiritual successor to the Leading Edge board game. Just as tough. Better models, I'll say, than those pewter models. But I've very much enjoyed. I think we've played the first 2 or 3 missions of it, and very much enjoyed it. Adam, you don't tend to play the board games, do you?
Not as much. No, I mean I've done sessions of the RPG, but that doesn't really count. I have the board game, the Fate of the Nostromo, but I have not played that yet.
I didn't like Fate of the Nostromo. I found it very too easy, unless me and Chris played it wrong. But it was not a challenge. Jelly Sheep says, "What's a Tau?" It's a Warhammer faction.
Yeah. And those models, they look pretty sweet.
The cultists?
No, he's talking about Warhammer.
Oh.
Another Glorious Day in the Core models. Sorry.
Oh no, he's talking about those. Yeah,
Yes.
I think they were actually done by what became of the people who made the miniatures game, Thrill of the Hunt. They used to be Prodos.
Okay.
And I think they
Because,
rebranded several times.
Because I think we have a few models of a miniature game at the studio, but these are different. So probably like the one who came after or before. I don't know when that came out, but the models were pretty cool as well. As a model painter myself,
Yeah.
can only appreciate a smart gun on that size.
So Jelly Sheep says Gale Force 9. Yeah, I know Gale Force 9 made the game, but I'm sure whoever Prodos produced the models for them for that game. Oh, I'm being contradicted here. Sarah and... Oh no, it's just... Sarah says, I enjoyed Fate of the Nostromo, definitely best played with Ash in the fray. Joe says Fate of the Nostromo had a fan-made rule set on Board Game Geeks that made the game more challenging, which is fair. There was a French one actually that got embroiled in a bit of hoo-ha about rule set plagiarism. I can't remember the name of the company, but the game was just ended up being called the US CSS Nostromo, and it was actually really fucking good. Me and Chris had a lot of fun with that one. It was very mental, more so than I think any of the other games, the Alien games have been. Wonder Dice, yes, that's right, Chris. Thank you. Jelly Sheep says, I can't wait to get back into miniature painting so I can paint the Pharaoh in the 5x5 expansion. So is that the new one coming out for A Glorious Day in the Core? I think it is.
Well, the beautiful thing is with your podcast, guys, you can actually put that on, motivate you to paint some minis, and it just works beautifully. I have done it, and I approve of that method.
I know some of the guys in our chats like to stick the poddies on while they're doing painting.
Yeah, it's really now it's something I do, I guess, every week. I have plenty of podcasts to listen, so that's always give me a motivation to paint.
Yeah,
That's how I stay on schedule,
that's
basically.
fair. I only tend to listen to stuff when I'm driving these days, so.
Yeah, it's also super nice to do so, especially like in cars. Sometimes you have I mean, it's just like the sound can be quite immersive.
Do any of you own the AVP trading cards from 2004 or any of the other Alien and Predator cards? I have a full set of the Precedence cards 2000 and 2001 AVP trading card game, which is one of the prides of my collection. I have the Inkworks' AVP, AVPR, Alien Legacy trading card sets, and I can't remember the name of the company that did them, but there was a set for Alien in '79. There was a set for Alien 3 in '92. I've got all those, which were great. I like trading cards. I like trading card games, so I do have a bunch of those. Thibaut, another one for you now. He still collating, says, thank you very much for the answer. Is Cassandra a sleeper agent now? Why did she sound ominous in the Marlowe level?
It's
What level
interesting.
does he mean there?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the levels, but regarding the sleeper agent thing, interesting idea. I don't think we discussed that yet. That would be interesting to explore that in a potential sequel. Obviously, she was captured for a long time, and her powers make her a very interesting and unusual type of character. So I guess we could do a lot of different things with her, including, potentially her being, like a covered or if it or a sleeper agent. Sometimes French words they come back to my mind when I'm speaking English. I apologize for that. But yeah, so we'll see. But I guess she was always a bit. I mean, the idea was to make her a bit like confused and mysterious, and potentially, try to sell her as something big for the future. So we'll see where it goes. But for now, I guess that's an interesting idea, and who knows what the future holds.
You'll be keeping that one close to your chest.
Yeah.
So Joe also says Upper Deck made an Aliens game that isn't too bad as well. I didn't really enjoy that, Joe. It was it's called Bug Hunt, wasn't it? I think me and Chris played 2 games of that, and it was
Yeah, Joe was saying Protoss
made the
did
alien models.
the best miniatures, right? With AVP.
Yeah, I think he was also saying that they did the alien models for the Gale Force 9 game.
Oh, so they contributed to that. Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was sure they'd gone on to do something for that.
That's a shame that was shut down, the AVP, because I know they would have kept that going, and they had a lot of really interesting ideas.
They finally hit their stride in releasing all the expansions and stuff. When Disney pulled the plug on them, which was a shame. Thibaut, number 9 asks, why did Sergeant Alvarez get so much attention in the launch trailer?
That's a weird one because I wasn't involved with that trailer, sadly. And I think Alvarez is actually like a character created for the trailer specifically. And Martinez is the character with the the bionic arm that we saw earlier in the stream. And sometimes they get confused. And also, I guess I was quite surprised with that character having a name because it was just for the trailer and everything. So I thought again that it's a bit confusing, but we could use that as an opportunity to explore new stuff or maybe write a data pad or two. So I think there is a data pad or two or more mentioning stuff that we see in the trailer and using the name kind of to flesh out that character. That is actually a character that was created for marketing purposes before everything else. So it's pretty weird that it's not the first time that I see people comment about that, but I guess it's the first impression that makes I mean, for the longest time, people thought we were an FPS or a twin stick shooter. So I guess the first trailer it kind of set a lot of things and a lot of discussion forward. And sadly, I wasn't involved in that, so I couldn't suggest oh let's go with that character or this character, which are way more important into the story, but because he was there, I kind of used it in a datapad or two, and yeah, I hope that's not too confusing. But it's a good example of actually, taking every opportunity I have to create narrative stuff.
Future DLC?
I gotta get
Yeah,
these
potentially.
the civvies out of here.
And actually about the question earlier about Cassandra, so the level was the Montero level. So really quickly, she was in that device that we see at the end of the game. And my understanding is that this device links her with the Hive, and she's not fully in control over powers and abilities at when she's in that device. So basically, she was not ominous or helping model willingly. But it's interesting that potentially, even without the device, she could be still, linked to the Hive or that sort of stuff. I would love to explore in a potential sequel or DLC. Once again, a lot of DLC planned out tonight on stream. Thank you, thank you, AVP Galaxy, for that.
Mitch says your English is fantastic. Don't apologize.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying not to, not to do a lot of mistakes, but I probably did already, so that's fine. Getting better.
So you speak two languages, me and Adam no speak any. Very well.
I mean, yours already, that's fine.
No, I mean, we already confuse each other with our English, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. Uh-oh, we got another cult member here. Aaron, do you remember how I moved this thing so the APC can get through?
There's a console.
In here?
Yes.
Turn around.
Where?
Oh, hang on. Let me flick to Discord so I can comment as you're doing. So go on your map.
This one right here. Yeah, it is in that building.
Xander says, when is the Aaron and Adam character DLC coming? You know, the two badass Marines based on the awesome AVP Galaxy hero.
I mean, the fans are asking for it, Thibaut, so...
The thing I can promise you guys is that if we ever do, and I'm taking that promise right now, live, but I think if we ever do a sequel, I have to put your names in the, like basically the Excel sheet that gives name for the Marines. So,
nice, yeah. That would be very much appreciated.
I mean, if we can do that's. I mean, I think at some point I was supposed to be one of the Marines. I don't think they did that for obvious reasons because they're always a bit like cautious with that because you never know. An employee has trouble with the company and something, and then their name is in the file, and it can be seen as potentially like aggravating stuff and that sort of bad stuff we don't want when you're making a game. But I was like, you can go ahead, give my name to Marion. I don't care. I want to carry a smart gun and probably die at the first xenomorph that I see. But that was that wasn't. I don't think they actually implemented the name. I think it was too late. But for the next one, I'll try. I'll see what I can do.
It's okay. I mean, we already got our names in a couple books.
Shut
so.
up! Shut up! God, come on!
Oh.
So I'm happy with that. I don't need anything else. Except, no, I need a ship named after me because you got one, Aaron. So that's the
Come
only
on.
thing.
It's not a competition. We just take all.
Aaron,
all
you,
of it.
you have a sheep named after you? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So in the Rage War, the series by Tim Leben,
Yeah.
one of the ships that's bringing all the aliens to kill everybody is named after me.
That's nice.
And I was like, Timmy, you're trying to make a commentary on fandom here.
Pretty cool. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's cool.
For ships though, that can be tricky because they have like they are naming conventions for ships,
Yeah.
right? So
I'm not in Joseph Conrad, so it's hard.
yeah. What are you doing, Aaron? Why are you not in Joseph
I know,
Conrad?
I know. Well, because my time machine failed and I couldn't go back.
Damn.
So we are 22 minutes past the 2-hour mark. If you're good to keep going, we can keep going, or we can wrap it up. It's really up to you, Thibaut.
If we can, maybe I think we had another last question. Maybe that was asked before. I wish to honor that, and then maybe we can wrap up. Or,
Yeah, let's do that.
Or take the last question or I'll take the last question in the chat as well. But let's do
Okay.
those.
So we'll go for Night Lord, who is one of the spillover questions from the last interview.
Yeah.
And he was curious about Price, and specifically the Cerberus protocol, asking, why wouldn't Price be able to deactivate Cerberus? Wouldn't Weyland-Yutani want to keep a planet like Lethe available for research, knowing it has a Space Jockey city on it? Oh, it might not have been Space Jockey. But then no matter how many aliens are running rampant on it, it's not as if collateral damage has been a concern of the company before.
Yeah, well, I guess it's exactly as Night Lord puts it. Collateral damage is not a concern, but it goes back to an idea that I was developing in the other show that we did of the way you not operating at the human level. So I think it was scarier basically to think they could nuke an entire planet and wait. Instead of just giving Price the safe key, if that makes sense. And so I really wanted that to be explored in the game, and also I wanted to show that for all her might, Price, she's still a little piece of the machine, and that goes back to that idea of big corporations. You can be like the chief executive, you can be the director of something, but there is always someone on top of you, and those are like operate on a level that is not ours basically. And so her bosses never told her of the fail safe that the Cerberus protocol basically isn't it cannot be stopped at some point if the infestation is too bad. And I remember talking with Romain and the team about the fact that it would always be easier for the Wei knowing their the money and the time and everything that they have and they can throw at this planet, that it's always easier for them to nuke everything from orbit and come back on a clean state on a deserted planet, and nobody would basically, it's so far remote, it's so far away from any other colonies that nobody would care, and basically they can wait a few years, set another I don't know, like bring Marines to secure the site and go start all over again, learning out of their mistakes. So it's basically the same idea of them going back to the planet between after the first movie, and then they go back because all this time it could be fine, but cranked it at 11,000 maybe with the nuke and everything, but yeah, the same sort of reasoning of them not thinking like us regular humans, and uh, French or British or American middlemen, blue collar workers that we are. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, everybody.
Hang on, Nathan. Thibaut, you said there was one more. Was it?
Oh.
No, I don't know if there was more, but I was asking. I mean, if you have questions in the chat that we didn't check out, but we'll see.
Here's a bit of love from Still Collating. Thibaut, you're the MVP. It's rare to hear the creatives, especially the writers, discussing their thinking not once but twice already so casually and openly. I cannot express how much we love that.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate it, and you taking the time to listen to it. To be fair, I mean, I feel very lucky to do so because it's quite hard, to be honest. A lot of devs and creative people, sometimes they do not get the recognition they deserve. Sometimes they're a bit afraid of what they could say on stream and that sort of stuff. I'd like to think that if you are transparent and forthcoming, it's always it will go as planned. There won't be any problem, any mistakes. But obviously, when you're talking about big IPs like Aliens and everything, it can be quite stressful. But I feel very privileged, like to also have the trust of the studio to talk about the game and everything. And I know a few of my colleagues have listened to the show and said like, oh, there you said to your understanding or to the best of your knowledge, but what you don't know is that we battle on this bug or on this idea for months, and it was funny to them because they trusting me, and we trust I guess each other. And so I'm also part of a bigger team that really appreciate me taking the time and allowing me to say a lot of things. Sometimes it's also a matter of contract. Publishers, editors, studios, they might not be, I don't know, like super kind of or open about their devs talking about everything, especially right after the release of the game. But also thanks to AVP Galaxy and you guys for inviting me, because I guess without that I wouldn't have talked about all that with you. So it always also requires a lot of dedicated people that put on the work on the IPs they love and everything. And I myself was doing that in another life. I'm very much appreciative of what Aaron and Adam are doing with those shows. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I mean, I love that long discussion we had, so we really appreciate your time with that, because we both just loved playing through this game, and you had such a
again.
yeah. And no, it's about time I do another playthrough. So, yeah. But Thibaut, if people would like to follow you, if you want to do like a little self shout out here, where can they do that?
Well, they can do that on Twitter or X as it is known. So my handle is Republic, but I guess it's written a bit differently. I will put it in a chat right now. But basically, it's 33K at the end. But if you type my name, Thibaut Claudel, you'll probably find me on that, and Instagram as well. If you're interested in miniatures and Warhammer stuff, you'll probably see my stuff on Instagram as well. What else? And I'm on Blue Sky, Twitter alternative.
Oh, we got that invite.
So, yeah, like all the cool kids. No, yes, it's just we'll see what happens with the social medias. But I'm always happy to discuss Dark Descent and everything I do. I mean, I love my job, so I have the privilege of writing as a living. So I'm always happy to comment and discuss about that. So if people follow me on those channels, they will probably be able to have a little chat about aliens and more stuff narrative related. And also I share a lot of thoughts about the movies and I see and the games I play and the books I read, because I'm still very much a reader, a player, and a moviegoer.
Cool.
And of course, you can always find us on avpgalaxy.net.
Indeed, and we have, hopefully next week we'll have our review episode of Dark Descent finally up, because Jesus Christ, I'm not very fast at these things at the minute. But we also have some other stuff recorded, including a review of the newest Predator comic series, The Preserve, which is the first we've actually sent off for editing from the support that all our early and initial Patreon subscribers have given us. That's what we've used that money for that first review. And hopefully
Exciting.
we'll be able to... Yes, it means I can start doing other things and maybe try and catch up. Because I've also started research on a new article today, which has been good. And we also recorded an interview with Declan Shelby, who is, as previously mentioned, the writer of Marvel's Last and Good arc. And we've got other cool stuff planned and coming up soon. I did my first episode for the Patreon exclusive podcast was Dark Star, which was the film that Dan O'Bannon did along with John Carpenter. And we are prepping for our second interview, our second Patreon exclusive episode as well, which will be an episode on Dead Space. I'm finally playing it, everybody. I'm on chapter 5.
Finally got Aaron to play it.
So that will be on our Patreon exclusive one. And if you're interested in supporting us on that, is it just patreon.com/AVP Galaxy? I genuinely do not know.
Let me find out.
Yeah, I think it is. It is. It's patreon.com/AVP Galaxy. And there's a couple of tiers of support on there. And yeah. Thanks to everybody who's backing us so far. And thank you to anybody who's considering it. Go and check us out on there. Let us know. I think that's all the waffling we have to do, isn't it?
Yep.
I guess. Until next time.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Indeed.
See you
Take
guys.
care.
Thank you for the questions and the love. Much appreciated.